Under cover of a blizzard, the Americans attack.
Yo, this is...
But it is a disaster.
Oh, hey guys, back after my car accident that led me to get a concussion. 9 days.
Autumn 1775.
The upload schedule might still be a bit wonky.
King George III.
Also, I might not do long videos that much for at least 3 more weeks to let my brain recover. This is kind of just a test to see if I can handle bright lights and for a long period of time. Because when I got that concussion, I couldn't look at anything bright, couldn't look at screens because my head were hurt really bad. But I'm like, okay, it's been 10 days since I uploaded a video. I need to get back into it, right? So
has decided to punish his rebellious colonies in America.
Know that.
While some British subjects sympathize with the Americans, a growing number see them as the king does.
Dangerous and ill-designing men who forget the allegiance which they owe to the power that has protected them.
Yep. Facts.
The king and his advisors pour over.
America was literally simply being protected. They literally protected the British, protected America from the French. And the Americans want to complain.
Over maps and military reports. While seeking to raise a force of 18,000 German auxiliaries to reinforce their army in America.
When once these rebels have felt a smart blow, they will submit.
The king tells his ministers. Across Britain and Ireland, ships are requisitioned. 20,000 soldiers muster at Portsmouth, Cork, and other ports. The largest expeditionary force yet seen in British history will soon be under sail.
I don't want to read this out loud, to be honest, because I don't want to trigger my concussion headache. Honestly.
In Philadelphia, the Second Continental Congress knows that the British will strike soon. General Washington commands the main Patriot Army, which besieges the British in Boston. Patriot forces control much of the 13 colonies, with the help of local committees of correspondence, inspection, and safety. But elsewhere in North America, the British remain in control. Their colonies in the West Indies rely on the British military to protect them from imperial rivals.
Oh my gosh! I just realized something. Number one, my video has shit quality. Let's fix that right now. And number two, he's finally talking about the West Indies. Wow. This is the first good map of the freaking Caribbean that I've ever seen. I swear, most of the maps of the Caribbean that I have seen, they're so small. They don't show the islands properly. And the islands are bigger than that. You'd be surprised.
And slave revolts. They will not risk rebellion. Florida's population is small and scattered, more worried by the threat of Spanish invasion than British tyranny.
Yep. And to talk about the slave rebellions in the Caribbean. Funny enough, this is literally one of the reasons why slaves in Barbados would become more privileged. Become more privileged than everywhere else. Because the British had such firm control over the island, and the island was generating so much money that they were kind of just man, just have some leeway on them. There's no point in being harsh. What's the point? They're making us so much money. We have firm control over the island. We could, give them some privileges and leeway. Funny enough, actually. So,
Native American tribes assume a watchful neutrality, although most secretly favor the British, seen as the more useful ally. But American patriots hope that Canada might still come over to their cause. The province of Quebec has only been ruled by the British since 1763. Most of its European population is French and Catholic. They have no love for the British, but the recent Quebec Act has restored their rights and privileges and reconciled many to British rule. When overtures arrive from Congress imploring the Canadians to join the rebellion, they are ignored. Right now, there are just 800 British redcoats in Canada. But Congress knows the British will likely send reinforcements and use Canada as a staging ground to invade the 13 colonies.
Yep.
So Congress decides to strike first. In its own words, to liberate the oppressed inhabitants of Canada.
Bro, don't you love American propaganda? My God, American propaganda has been at it since the freaking birth of the 13 colonies. The adolescent years, bruh, of the United States. Ain't no way, bruh. Ain't no way. Bruh, they ignored you, bruh. That's the bruh moment, man. N-word moment.
The main advance will be made by the 2,000-strong Northern Army, gathered around Ticonderoga. A disorganized force, hardly deserving of the name, but led by a talented Irish officer, General Richard Montgomery. In September 1775, he lays siege to Fort St. Jean, guarding the road to Canada. And with the heavy guns captured at Fort Ticonderoga, pummels it into submission in 6 weeks.
Damn.
The road to Canada is open. But desertion and sickness have already reduced the Northern Army's strength by half.
Already?
As the army marches on Quebec, a second force races to join them. Colonel Benedict Arnold, an enterprising young officer from Connecticut, has convinced Washington to give him 2,000 men to reinforce Montgomery.
This guy.
His route is treacherous, through a wilderness of thick forests, rivers, and swamps.
Our march has been attended with an amazing deal of fatigue. I have been much deceived. Our route is longer and has been attended with 1,000 difficulties I never apprehended.
Many of Arnold's men give up and turn back.
So much desertion, man.
But in early December, he arrives outside Quebec and links up with Montgomery.
Imagine being...
Their combined force is just 1,200 men. Quebec sits on an imposing bluff over the St. Lawrence River. It's the most well-fortified city in North America, with 20-foot walls and 114 cannon. The extremely able British governor, Guy Carleton, has prepared for a siege, recruiting hundreds of militia and stockpiling ammunition and supplies. The Americans are under pressure. It is midwinter. And just as at Boston, they face the prospect of hundreds of troops going home in a few days, when their enlistments expire. So, Arnold and Montgomery decide to risk an immediate assault. In the early hours of the 31st of December, under cover of a blizzard, the Americans attack.
Yo, this is...
But it is a disaster.
Oh,
They are met by organized, determined British resistance. General Montgomery is killed. His men routed. Colonel Arnold is badly wounded, while hundreds of his men are surrounded and captured. The remnants of the Northern Army, about 600 men, are isolated, frozen, ravaged by smallpox, and hundreds of miles from friendly territory. For now, Arnold stubbornly holds his position outside Quebec. But it is clear he won't last long without reinforcements.
Wiped.
That winter, Henry Knox, a 25-year-old bookseller from Boston, now a colonel in the Patriot Army, oversees a stunning logistical operation. The movement of 59 heavy guns, some weighing more than 2 tons, across 300 miles of snow, mountains and frozen rivers, using sleds, oxen and horses. These are the guns of Fort Ticonderoga, which Knox has promised General Washington he shall have for his siege of Boston, where they may well turn the tide. Knox arrives on the 27th of January 1776, with all 59 guns not far behind. A jubilant Washington promotes Knox to commander of the artillery. Washington's first instinct is to use the guns to support a direct assault on Boston across the frozen Charles River. But his war council persuades him to adopt a more cautious approach, to fortify Dorchester Heights, from where the guns can threaten the British fleet at anchor. Without the fleet guaranteeing resupply, the British Army will have to evacuate. Tons of timber, stone and hay are discreetly gathered at Roxbury, while the Americans open a nightly bombardment on Boston to mask their preparations. The British answer with twice the firepower. On the third night, Patriot forces use the cover of the bombardment to quietly haul 20 guns onto Dorchester Heights. By dawn the next day, they have entrenched the position and garrisoned it with 6,000 troops. The British are horrified. They open up with a massive cannonade. But their fire does little damage. The British prepare an assault, but snow and hurricane-strength winds force General Howe to call it off. With his men now close to starvation and decimated by sickness, Howe decides he must evacuate the city.
This William Howe, he just a fun fact, he stopped by in Barbados, my country, back when it was a colony, before he moved on to, I think it was Howe. There was quite a few British generals who stopped by in Barbados before being sent to America, like on the route to America to fight the Revolutionary War. I think Howe was one of them. 90% sure he was one of them. I could be wrong.
In exchange for an unopposed departure, the British agree not to destroy Boston. On the 20th of March, the British blow up their supply base at Castle William. Then sail for Halifax to regroup and resupply. After more than 10 months, the siege is over. The British have been defeated, and news of Washington's victory spreads across the colonies, sparking celebrations and jubilation. A Connecticut newspaper proclaims,
"The joy of our friends in Boston on seeing the victorious and gallant troops of their country enter the town almost on the heels of the barbarous oppressors was inexplicably great."
A British lieutenant remarks,
I hope the rebels will get heartily thrashed. I would be content to lose a leg and an arm to see them totally defeated and their whole country laid waste.
Not all Americans rejoice to see the British defeated. Those who opposed the rebellion, now termed Loyalists, make up around 1 in 5 of the population. Each has their own motives, which are diverse and often complex. Some are recent immigrants to America with strong social and economic ties to Britain. Some are doggedly loyal to king and country, including Anglicans, for whom George III is head of the Church of England.
Yo, respect to my people. Anglicans exist in Barbados too, to this day. Still do. The Anglican Church, still do. In fact, the Anglican Church actually is the most denomination in Barbados. If you ever visit Barbados, you'll see so much Anglican Church architecture. Very interesting. But hell yeah, man. King and country. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of a quick story of back when I was in high school, right? And this was back 2 years ago, 3 years ago. But this is recent after Barbados removed the monarchy via undemocratic means. It's very, very undemocratic, but whatever, right? And my teacher, who's from the Dutch Caribbean, she was being all politically correct, oh, you guys removed the monarchy. Oh, that's so cool. You're a republic. You're getting rid of all of that colonialism and all that European influence, which is it's kind of hypocritical to me. Because she was oh yeah, you get rid of all of that. Because it's oh well, the monarchy was involved with slavery and all that, and you're getting rid of your colonial ties, all that politically correct stuff that people say. But it's hypocritical because she would proudly always tell us in the class I'm Dutch. Okay, she's I'm Dutch. I have a Dutch passport. Okay, I speak Dutch. Okay, and keep in mind, guys, she was she was Dutch Caribbean, definitely. But she was black. You could tell she was Afro descent. She didn't have anything mixed with her. She was black, right? Black. I'm talking actual dark skin black. Okay. Because people have this misconception of what black is. No, my definition of black is you need to have dark skin. Because that's how I grew up with black in Barbados. Okay, and Barbados is 95% colored population. So we know what black is. Okay. But yeah, she would always be boasting about, being so proud of how she's Dutch and, her heritage, her Dutch heritage and whatnot. And then, I'm but the Dutch also did slavery too, colonized Carousel and whatnot, right? How is that the double standards? It's oh yeah, you can be proud of your heritage. I'm not saying not, but I'm just saying. But to go and look at me and be oh yes, you can't do that. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I looked at her and I was well. Me personally, I don't support the whole republic. And to you guys, an American across the world, it might not seem like a big deal, but to us in Barbados, the monarchy was a big deal. The monarchy was a very big deal, one of the most biggest deals of Barbados. Okay, so you guys might not understand, to be honest, and that's totally okay. But to us in Barbados, that was a big deal. I honestly can't explain that, but it was such a big deal. Okay, so to just have that just be removed, it was oh my god, what, right? And I looked at her and I said, well, me personally, I'm a loyalist. I support the Queen at the time. The Queen was still alive at the time. I was I support the Queen. Me and my family, we all aren't really with this whole republic idea. The monarchy is a fine system. The system was never bad. There's a whole bunch of reasons why I could explain to you why I support the monarchy system, and she didn't really like what I said, because it wasn't politically correct. But that was just my personal opinion. Is for me personally, it was like, bro, it's like Queen and Country, man. That was one of the reasons why, but there were more practical reasons why I would genuinely supported the monarchy, like, and just to have it removed in such an undemocratic way, that still pisses me off to this day. It really does, whatever. But this just reminds me of that. Okay, like the sentiment, it's very much still there. In this gives me nostalgia, honestly. Okay, what he said with the whole like Anglicans and the whole like king and country thing. Yeah. So
others fear an American republic will lead only to anarchy and mob rule, and can point to many historical precedents.
Which is better, to be ruled by one tyrant 3,000 miles away, or by 3,000 tyrants not a mile away?
Yeah, this is literally one of the reasons why I supported the monarchy, like unironically. Unironically, bro, because literally, like, the fact that they were far away, they're thousands of miles away, they didn't really do anything to us. It's like they were just like, okay, you guys are there, cool, we're not gonna bother y'all. And they never did anything to us. I was like, why do you want to remove that? Remove that and replace it with a republic that can easily be corrupted. Which, by the way, Barbados is a de facto dictatorship now. By the way, I just want to point that out. De facto dictatorship, albeit nothing hasn't really come out of that. But I don't know. Maybe somebody else who's more power hungry could take advantage of that. That's a very fragile thing, right? Like, so now, because now that they're a republic, you have that problem. You have that problem where somebody could easily just turn the country into something that you don't want. You don't want. Force stuff on people that they don't want, right? That's literally one of the main reasons why it's insane to me how these people, like 300 years ago, I can still relate to them. Isn't that mad? Like, I can still relate to these British folks 300 years ago. That's crazy, man. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, man. Like, even Queen Elizabeth wasn't even a tyrant. Like, she never, like, the monarchy today doesn't even abuse their power now. So I can't even say the word tyrant. I would rather be ruled by someone far away than be ruled by someone like right there on the same country as me, because if they're on that same country as me, they have more incentives to, turn that place, could possibly turn that place into something worse, since it would benefit them, because that's their country too. They're not 3,000 miles away for them to just be like, whatever. You know what I mean? Exactly, man. I love this. I swear to God, I'm a loyalist at heart. I swear to you.
Many fear the horrors of armed conflict.
Our once happy land is plunged deeper into a ruthless war. Torrents of blood will be spilt, and thousands reduced to beggary and wretchedness.
Many might have chosen to sit out the conflict. But local patriot committees of inspection and safety that have sprung up across the colonies make that increasingly difficult. In the absence of royal authority, they have taken up many of the duties of local government and keep an eye on potential enemies. By 1776, anyone suspected of loyalist sympathies is liable to be investigated by such a committee, or targeted by a rowdy patriot mob and often driven out of their home.
That violent spirit in the patriots of harassing and oppressing the Loyalists has spread, and I have been obliged, a little more than a month since, to leave my parishes, my family and friends, and to fly into
parishes.
exile in order to escape.
Americans don't know what parishes are. We still use parishes in Barbados, but Americans don't know what parishes are. They're like equivalent to like provinces, I believe, or counties. I think parishes are more equivalent to county. I could be wrong. Is that a counties or provinces?
Violence and imprisonment, if not immediate death.
Some Loyalists leave to form their own militia companies that clash with Patriot partisans for years to come. The conflict will divide communities and families, pitching neighbour against neighbour, father against son. The king and his ministers believe New England to be the hotbed of rebellion, and that especially in the south, most of the population remain loyal, bullied into silence by a minority of troublemakers. A British show of force, it is hoped, will lead thousands of such people to come forward and volunteer to serve in Loyalist units. In the Carolinas, British governors Josiah Martin and William Campbell have been calling out for just such a measure since they were forced from their homes by Patriot mobs the previous summer. At last, in January 1776, they receive news that Admiral Parker is on his way with 50 ships and 3,000 soldiers. But it is a tiny force for such a mission, hastily planned and poorly coordinated to boot. On the 27th of February, a Loyalist force in North Carolina duly marches to join Governor Martin on the coast. But at Moores Creek Bridge, they are ambushed by a larger Patriot force. Most of the Loyalists are new Scottish immigrants and launch the last known Highland Charge with swords drawn.
My comrades!
They are gunned down, and more than 1,000 Loyalists are taken prisoner in the ensuing rout.
Oh my god, my comrades! My comrades! Go watch my DNA test result video, part 2, where Ancestry updated it. I'm Gaelic mixed with West African.
Admiral Parker decides to attack the port of Charleston, held by around 6,000 rebels. It is the richest city in North America, and the point of entry for more than 100,000 enslaved Africans in the last century. Its capture will give the British control of a major port and surely inspire more Loyalists to rally to the King's cause.
Yes!
But to take Charleston, the British must first capture the rebel fort on Sullivan's Island, overlooking the harbour. Parker's attack is a fiasco. Naval fire is ineffective against the fort's spongy palmetto logs, while shore batteries drive off British transports and inflict heavy damage on Royal Navy warships. The failure of Parker's expedition is a heavy blow to British hopes in the southern colonies.
That's disappointing.
The only other British force in the region is Lord Dunmore's collection of sailors, cast-off troops, and his Ethiopian regiment of former slaves. But they have been decimated by smallpox and typhus.
Bro, at that point,
The hopeless situation
at that point, you better off being a slave, man.
leads Dunmore to withdraw his forces and return to London, abandoning the Loyalists of Virginia. By
Yikes.
July 1776, from the Chesapeake to Charleston, there is not a single British soldier.
Damn.
April 1776. For the first time since its formation, the Continental Army is on the march. The soldiers are cheered through every town. Morale is sky high. Their destination is New York City, the largest harbour on the East Coast, where Washington expects the British to strike next. From Georgia to New England, there are now growing calls for total separation from Britain. The desire for independence is fueled, in no small part, by a new pamphlet, Common Sense. Its author is the British radical Thomas Paine, now living in Philadelphia. In persuasive, plain English, he mocks the entire basis of monarchy, while praising the principle of self-government through elected representatives.
Oh, no, I'm a big monarchist. No. Bruh, Republic is stupid. I'll argue that in another video.
Of more worth is one honest man to society than all the crowned ruffians that ever lived. The cause of America is in a great measure the cause of all mankind. The birthday of a new world is at hand.
Loyalists, like Nicholas Cresswell, are unimpressed.
One of the vilest things that was ever published to the world, full of false representations, lies, calumny, and treason, whose principles are to subvert all kingly governments and erect an independent republic.
Nothing but
The
facts. Nothing
Patriots
but
control
facts.
the printing presses. An estimated 100,000 copies of Common Sense are printed and sold across the colonies.
Wow.
Among the upper and merchant classes, there have been calls for independence for many months. Now, Common Sense persuades thousands of ordinary folk that it is the only solution.
When you write,
That June, in Philadelphia, Congress meets daily for heated debates over independence. Congress has decided the colonies must be unanimous in their decision. Backroom deals and last-minute U-turns take it down to the wire. On the 2nd of July, 1776, Congress votes in favor of independence.
Wow. New York. New York. Really? It's kind of ironic because like New York is the epitome, like face of America today. That's
2 days later,
very ironic.
the 4th of July, it formally adopts a written Declaration of Independence, drafted by John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, Roger Sherman, and Robert Livingston.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal,
yes.
that they are endowed by their Creator.
Yes. This rubbish. Yes. Yeah, you still had slavery, didn't give women equal rights, albeit that was more of a societal thing, but you still had slavery. The racism in America was bad, still is pretty bad.
With certain unalienable rights.
Yeah.
That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Ironically, the declaration is closely modelled on English precedents, particularly the Declaration of Right and Bill of Rights of 1689.
Wow.
Debate
that
and
is
revisions
so-
continue until the last moment, including the removal of a paragraph criticising the slave trade in order to appease the southern colonies.
Well, I actually did hear about that. Yeah. I actually did hear about that. At least some of them knew that slavery was bad, but all in all, yeah, it's still removed it. So yeah, bad.
Eventually, all 50
which would eventually just culminate in like America just being so awfully racist throughout its history. That's a whole different video.
6 delegates sign, pledging
Our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
grand demonstrations erupt across what are now commonly called the 13 United States of America.
Yeah.
There is a mock funeral for King George in Georgia. His portrait is burned in Delaware. Royal buildings are defaced in New Hampshire. In New York, a 15-foot statue of the king is toppled. Its lead melted into 42,088 bullets for the war effort. The colonies are now independent states.
Heartbreaking. It's so heartbreaking to see this as a monarchist. I mean, do you not see my portrait of the late Queen Elizabeth II right there?
Unless the British Army can reclaim them for the crown. For more than a year, the rebels in America have acted almost with impunity. No longer. On the 6th of May 1776, General Burgoyne arrives in Quebec City from Britain with
Arnold,
7,000 reinforcements.
Bro, you are
Brigadier
cooked.
General Benedict Arnold has maintained a blockade for 5 months. But now, massively outnumbered, he must make a rapid retreat. In June, General Sullivan takes command and orders a counterattack at Trois-Rivières.
You are mad.
It's a disaster.
You are
The
mad.
retreat continues, and Montreal falls to the British. Meanwhile, Washington prepares for the defense of New York with the bulk of the Continental Army. For weeks, he's anxiously awaited the arrival of the British. Then, on the 29th of June, ships are sighted on the horizon. With each passing hour, more and more are spotted. 30, 70, more than 100 sail.
Wow.
You can scarcely conceive of the distress and anxiety, the city in an uproar, the alarm guns firing, the troops repairing to their posts. My God, may I never experience the like feelings again.
General Howe has arrived with 120 ships and 10,000 soldiers at his command. They have spent the last 3 months training and preparing in Halifax, burning to avenge their defeat at Boston. Soon, Howe will be joined by Admiral Parker's Southern Expedition and a vast fleet from England, commanded by his brother, Admiral Richard Howe.
I swear, America is so lucky that the French came in clutch, bro. This is so overwhelming. Oh my
In total,
gosh, man.
32,000 soldiers,
Bruh.
12,000 sailors, and 400 ships are converging on New York. Almost half the military might of the British Empire. British troops land unopposed on Staten Island, welcomed with cheers from the small, loyal population. And learning of the Declaration of Independence 10 days later, General Howe has a reply. 2 Royal Navy frigates sail up the Hudson and bombard Manhattan with impunity. The British are back. To American patriots, King George III was a great villain.
Is there... Okay. Bro, what a lit series, man. Look, if you made it all the way here to the end of the video, you let my reactions, you like what I have to say, you know, subscribe if you're new. If you have any videos like this or any other type of videos that you would definitely like to see my reaction to, you know, comment in the comments below. Eventually I will do it. Yeah, man, that was fire. That was fire. Check out my other videos like this on my channel, man. Thank you for watching and goodbye.